Hi guys, thanks for watching the channel. My guest today is Mr. Scott McDaniel, Development Director from New Horizons, and he's gonna come here and look for a franchisees for his business. Hi Scott, thank you for coming.
Certainly. Good afternoon.
First of all, why don't you tell us more about New Horizons, what it is and what are you doing?
Okay. Very simply, New Horizons, as stated, is a franchise. What are we a franchise of? Adult education training centers. And why do I say adult? It's very important because we are focused on professionals and employers that train their employees. So anyone that's basically has a career, 21 and above, if they need training, New Horizons is the type of company that they would do training with.
So specifically, what kind of subject that we are studying here?
It's primarily technology, IT.
Okay.
That's probably
like
about
basic stuff?
Everything from very basic, how do I use Word or Excel, to the very, very high end, high level security training, development training, infrastructure training, etc. Corporate governance and things of that nature. So if it has to do with technology, there's a good possibility that we have a training course for that. So that's about 75% or so of our business. The other area is professional development, things like project management, leadership, customer service, those other types of professional skills that an employee would need in the business.
Okay, so how does that work? So how does that model work?
Yep. Well, primarily as a franchisor, we're looking for local partners. Those local partners will then start a small training business, and that small training business is, of course, looking to medium and large size companies in the particular market, and they'll be contacting them, looking to see if they have training needs for their staff, as also they would be doing some local marketing and advertising. As an adult professional, would you look to advance your career?
Okay.
And those types of people, if they say yes, of course, there's a potential that they could take some of our training courses.
How do you train people? Is that going to be like a classroom? Is it going to be computer learning? How's the model?
Certainly, it's a good question.
Yeah.
I think anyone that understands the education market right now, like many markets in the world, are somewhat being disrupted by technology.
Okay.
And of course, we are a technology training company. So we do have classroom training, which is our roots and our legacy. We're over 30 years old
Just
company.
like a traditional classroom.
Traditional classroom with a teacher, desks and chairs, and a whiteboard. So we certainly have traditional classroom learning. But we've had a huge and major shift into the virtual learning space.
Okay.
And let me clarify virtual learning.
All right.
It is live training where people log into an environment, they're collaborating with other students and an instructor, just like a physical classroom, but they're not coming to a physical classroom.
Okay, so like I'm talking to you with a webcam.
Correct,
Right.
with webcam, headsets, you can see each other's screen on your computer. When one person is talking, just like in a classroom, no one else is talking. So it's a real conversation, you're just not physically in the same room.
And this is live conversation, not a recorded video.
Correct, live, instructor-led training, live communication.
Okay.
It's none of it's recorded. It's not self-study. You don't take it offline and bring it home and study it next week. You have to log in at specific days and time to communicate and collaborate with the other students and instructor online.
But
just like in a
do you have
classroom.
a specific time of study? Like, do you study
Yes, you do.
During daytime or
There are
nighttime,
specific
or?
times. That varies. Could be day or nighttime. There are both options. And certainly you have to log into those specific days and times, just like you have to commit to coming to a physical classroom at a specific day and time.
All right.
You have to commit to logging into the virtual classroom at a specific day and time.
Okay. So as a franchisee, then I have to hire my local teachers.
Correct.
Right.
That is very much one of the requirements of a local franchisee. They are going to own the local business. They will also prepare the small training facility that'll have a couple of classrooms. We will host all of the technology in the cloud.
Okay.
And then the local franchisees will be trained, which includes the local instructors, how to use all of the technology that's in the cloud.
Okay. Well then, then we have to be in charge of our own teachers and instructors.
Correct.
And then all the materials and the programs and the contents we get from you in English.
Correct.
But the teacher is going to teach in the local language.
Correct. The majority of the material for the high-end technology is in English.
Right.
It's very common, relatively commonly known that if you're going to have a successful career in the IT industry, you have to at least understand how to read and listen to English, because that is the language of IT. However, in the beginning type courses, those classes are very often translated to local language. So you get started in local language, And if you're going to advance your career, you need to understand a basic level of English.
But then if we have problem finding a teacher, then would you help in that, or would you provide training?
There is some help in that space,
Okay.
but at the end of the day, we cannot physically fly here and
Alright.
find you a trainer that doesn't exist. So there certainly, that is a challenge to this business. Just like if you were to own a 5-star restaurant, finding the right 5-star chef is a challenge to owning that restaurant. You can't put a child to cook your 5-star meals and hope it'll work. So what the franchisee basically needs to do is to look at the local IT talent in their local market. There certainly are professional people already here. Many of them may have not thought of a career as an educator, but we find in every country we're in, there's a certain number of IT professionals that would enjoy spending some of their time giving that knowledge back to people that want to get a better career in IT as well.
Okay. So let me make this clear. So it's got to be a combinations of like the virtual classroom, and you also have to come into the traditional classroom to study.
Yes, ultimately it can be both.
Okay.
You can do only classroom physical if you want as
or
a student.
you can stay at home.
Or
and
you
talk
can
to
do
the
only
teacher.
virtual,
All right.
or you can do part of both. And that's the ultimate goal, is to give the students more choice. A lot of students that are adults, again, this is adult training.
Okay.
This is not 16 to 20 years old.
All right. So
This is 21 and above.
All right.
Most of those people already have a job. They often are already married. They often already have children. So one of their biggest obstacles to advancing their career is, when do I find the time to go to a physical learning training company to get more skills and more knowledge so I can then advance my career? Which is why we find a lot of students, not just in the Western environment, in many countries around the world we operate, which is about 60 countries. The virtual learning is either growing very fast or it's starting to get a serious, strong foothold in the market as more people understand there are other options than having to come down to a physical classroom day after day after day and sit there hours after hours after hours, cram everything in, and then go back to the office and forget half of it. And the virtual you can do in much shorter sessions, and you don't have to physically come down.
Okay.
So you can learn smaller bites and hopefully be able to remember a bit more over time.
But would you have the same level of interactions with the virtual classroom? I mean,
The hours are the same number of hours, yes.
so you talk to the teacher, you can interact with your team members, your
Correct.
class members, just like the traditional
Correct.
classroom with computers and headset and webcam.
Correct.
All right. And how do you think that model would be effective for a learner? I mean, is that the new way of
Well, there's a few reasons. One, I think I've already basically described. Time is always a constraint for adults. It's always a constraint. So a traditional class is usually a number of days in a row, all day long. A virtual course is typically maybe 2 or 3 hours over a number of days or weeks. So you're getting smaller components over a longer period of time, which allows you more free time to do what you have to do in life, work, provide for your family, etc. So that could certainly provide some value and benefit. And one of the other things that we're finding in many markets around the world, as the millennials, so to speak,
the young people,
the younger people are joining the workforce. More and more of them are joining the workforce. More and more of them are much more comfortable collaborating online for anything.
spend all the time online.
Spend all the time online. Why not go ahead and spend a few hours of that time learning a new skill set so you can get a promotion or a pay raise or something of that nature?
It looks to me it's a very potential business for Vietnam's market. What kind of requirement that you look for in a franchisee? I mean, if you want to buy a franchise from you, then what do you look for?
Certainly.
Experience,
The
capability,
core experience
yeah.
we're looking for is someone that understands how to own and operate a business first.
Okay.
Because this is a business.
Yeah.
This is not an academic institution. This is a training business. And business is very key. So someone that understands or has proven that they've already owned and operated a previous business is number one.
Does it have to be technology, or does it have to be...
Doesn't have to,
Okay.
but that's number two.
Yeah.
Number two is do you have any experience, one, in either the education industry or the IT industry?
All right.
Because certainly if you're
That's
providing
fair
an
enough.
education
Yep.
business and heavily focused on IT,
Sure.
understanding one or both of those is beneficial. But there's certainly examples all around the world of people that were having a career in one area, or they owned a business in one area, and then they started a career or opened a business in another area. That's certainly possible. So the core for us is what's your business skill and your business acumen, Have you been able to prove to operate and own a strong business previously? If you have, and you also have either IT or education as some experience, it's going to make your application even stronger.